Have you ever imagined entering a place where power speaks louder than character, and realizing in a few seconds that someone there has decided you don't deserve respect? Think about that for a moment. A luxurious insurance office, glass walls, impeccable furniture, well-dressed people rushing around with importance etched on their faces. An environment where status isn't a detail, it's the rule. And that's exactly where it all begins. She enters silently. Firm steps, serene posture, elegant clothes, but without exaggeration. Nothing flashy, nothing that screams power, just presence. Yet something changes in the air the moment that black woman crosses the threshold. Some gazes completely ignore her, others assess her too quickly. It's as if, even before she says a word, she's already been placed in an invisible box. Have you ever experienced this? Have you ever felt like someone decided who you were before even knowing you? Across the room, a billionaire dominates the atmosphere. Loud voice, excessive self-assurance, the kind of confidence that comes not only from money, but from the certainty that no one there would dare confront him. He speaks, the others listen. He commands, the others agree. And when he senses her presence, something happens. A quick glance, a sly smile, a silent judgment, followed by anything but silent actions. She is ignored at first, then interrupted, next questioned, not about ideas, not about business, but about why she is there. The tone isn't direct, but it carries contempt. It's the kind of humiliation that doesn't need shouting to hurt. Small gestures, disjointed comments, a clear feeling that, for him, that woman doesn't belong in that space. Stay with me until the end, because what you're about to discover might surprise you more than you imagine. While the billionaire grows increasingly comfortable, the atmosphere around him begins to grow strange. Employees exchange discreet glances. Someone tries to change the subject. Another pretends not to hear, but no one intervenes. And perhaps that's the cruelest part, the complicit silence of those who see the injustice but prefer not to get involved. The woman remains there, calm, observing. She doesn't react. She doesn't defend herself. She doesn't explain herself. She just waits. And it is precisely this silence that is unsettling, because it is not the silence of someone who accepts humiliation, but the silence of someone who knows something that others don't. Something big, something capable of turning that room upside down. The billionaire, without realizing it, keeps advancing. You keep talking too much. You keep exposing yourself. Each of his words builds a greater abyss between the power he thinks he has and the reality that is about to emerge. Can you feel that tension? That feeling that something is completely out of place but hasn't been revealed yet? It's like watching a high-speed train with no brakes, knowing that a collision is inevitable. And the more superior the billionaire feels, the more the story prepares for a twist that no one there is ready to face. Take a deep breath, because the arrival that no one respected was no accident. It was the beginning of a powerful lesson about appearance, prejudice, and authority. And the question that lingers before everything changes is simple and unsettling. Why did he feel so comfortable humiliating her without imagining who she really was? And perhaps that's why this story is so unsettling. Because on some level, it's not just about an insurance office or an arrogant billionaire. It touches on experiences that many people have lived through, being underestimated, judged by appearance, silenced before even having a chance to speak. And while this woman stands there, steadfast, observing every detail, it's impossible not to wonder how many similar situations go unnoticed every day. If this topic resonates with you, take a second and think. What has touched you the most so far? Have you ever experienced something like this or witnessed someone going through it? Leave a comment below. Seriously, this space isn't just for sharing stories. It's for creating conversation, identification, and genuine exchange. Sometimes your comment might be exactly what someone else needs to read to feel less alone. And if, at any point in this narrative, you felt that tightness in your chest, that mixture of indignation and expectation. Consider leaving a like. It seems simple, but it makes a huge difference. That's how this type of content continues to reach more people who also need to reflect on respect, prejudice, and justice. Now, if you find that these stories captivate you, make you think, and stay with you even after the video ends, subscribe to the channel. It's not just a button, it's a way of saying you want to continue being part of this community that values stories with purpose, real plot twists, and lasting messages. Your participation here is what makes this channel grow and reach more people with this type of content. And as long as you're a part of it, the story continues to unfold. Because the silence in that room is about to be broken, and when that happens, nothing will remain the same. The atmosphere changes completely when the billionaire decides that ignoring her isn't enough. He takes center stage, adjusts his tone of voice, looks around to ensure everyone is paying attention, and then begins to speak with the confidence usually reserved for someone accustomed to never being questioned. He interrupts any attempt at conversation that doesn't originate from him, makes jokes disguised as technical comments, and poses questions that seek not answers, but submission. Her presence seems to bother him more than he'd like to admit, and the longer she remains silent, the more he feels the need to reaffirm his own power. He questions why she's there, suggests she might have gone to the wrong place, comments on how that kind of meeting requires real experience, looking her up and down as if evaluating an object out of context. It's a public humiliation that doesn't come in the form of shouting, but of irony, sarcasm, sharp little phrases that cut deep. It evokes that vicarious embarrassment that tightens your stomach, that feeling of injustice that mixes contained anger with powerlessness. And the most disturbing thing is realizing that, even so, no one reacts. The surrounding employees watch everything as if it were an uncomfortable spectacle. Some look away, others pretend to shuffle papers as if they weren't listening. Some even make a gesture to intervene, but back down. The collective silence creates an almost physical weight in the atmosphere. It is there, behind the scenes of this scene, that the truth begins to hide even deeper, because when everyone is silent, the humiliation gains strength, becomes normalized, becomes part of the machine. And the billionaire realizes this. He feels supported, he grows. Meanwhile, she remains there. Upright posture, controlled expression, attentive gaze. There is no direct confrontation, no explicit emotional defense. Her calmness contrasts almost disconcertingly with his arrogance. It's as if two completely opposite mentalities are clashing in that space. On one side, the constant need to assert oneself. On the other, the silent security of someone who doesn't need to prove anything. This difference creates a tension that no one can ignore, even pretending that nothing is happening. Each of his words reveals more than he imagines. It reveals decisions based on appearances, hasty judgments, a limited view of who deserves to be where. It reveals a mentality shaped by privilege and untested certainties. And at the same time, each second of her silence seems to carry a hidden truth, something that hasn't yet surfaced, but is already beginning to have an impact. It's as if time is stretching out, preparing the ground for something bigger. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because this public humiliation is not just an isolated moment. It's part of a journey that many recognize, even if they've never experienced this scene exactly. It's about how environments of power can become spaces of exclusion. It's about how decisions made in seconds can reveal who we truly are. And it's about transformation, not the kind announced in beautiful speeches, but the kind that arises from the clash between arrogance and reality. The billionaire continues talking, but something begins to spiral out of control. The air in the room grows thicker. There's a growing unease, an almost collective feeling that he's going too far. Yet no one interrupts him. This is the boundary being crossed in front of everyone, with an audience and without resistance. And paradoxically, it is in this excess that he begins to dig his own abyss, because the more he exposes his certainties, the more fragile they become. She observes everything as someone who understands the game completely. There's no rush. There's no need to react in the heat of the moment. There's an awareness of the impact each choice can have. This control isn't weakness, it's strategy. It's the calmness of someone who knows that certain revelations need the right time to happen. And while the billionaire believes he's winning, that he's putting someone in their place, the real narrative is already reorganizing itself behind the good appearances. This scene forces us to confront uncomfortable questions. How often does collective silence legitimize injustice? How many opportunities for change are lost because no one wants to get involved? And how many stories of transformation begin exactly like this, with someone being underestimated in public while carrying a truth capable of turning everything upside down? The impact lies not only in what is said, but in what is tolerated. The humiliation that crosses the line doesn't end there. It leaves invisible marks on the environment, on the people who witness it, on the aggressor himself. And it is at this point that the story begins to move away from the obvious and towards revelations that few expect. Because when the journey seems to lean entirely to one side, it is usually when reality decides to impose itself without warning, without concessions. Before we go any further, if all of this resonates with something you've ever felt or witnessed, comment below. This makes sense to me. Her silence begins to take on another dimension. It's no longer just an absence of response. It's a calculated presence. While the billionaire continues to show off, occupying every second with his own voice, she observes everything with almost surgical attention. She looks at the clock on the wall, at the glass doors, at the faces that feign normalcy. It's as if she's reading the backstage of that environment, understanding who really commands, who merely obeys, and who carries too many secrets to speak. This kind of silence doesn't stem from submission, it stems from clarity. Around them, the signs begin to appear. One employee adjusts his tie for the third time, clearly nervous. Another avoids looking at the billionaire, but also doesn't dare look directly at her. Two colleagues exchange a quick, almost imperceptible glance, the kind that speaks louder than any sentence. Something is off script. And those who know the inner workings of that company feel it in their bodies before they understand it with their minds. The tension grows not because someone shouts, but because the truth begins to stir beneath the surface. At one point, a director leans forward, as if finally about to intervene. He opens his mouth, tries to say something technical, neutral, perhaps an elegant attempt to end the situation, but the billionaire cuts him off unceremoniously with an impatient gesture of his hand, making it clear that he will not tolerate interruptions. The director backs down, and that small gesture says a lot. It says that there are hierarchies there that are not as simple as they seem. It says that there are decisions being swallowed up for convenience. It says that silence, once again, wins. She notices all of this, every micro-expression, every held breath, every restrained movement. It is at this point that the story begins to transform internally, even without any explicit revelation, because the journey to truth rarely begins with grand announcements. It begins with details, with discomfort, with that feeling that someone is being dangerously underestimated. The billionaire believes he controls the environment, but ignores that real control is already slipping through the cracks. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject because this silence that hides a truth is not accidental. It is the result of choices. Choices not to react impulsively, not to give power to those who seek to humiliate, to wait for the exact moment when reality speaks for itself. There is a silent transformation happening there, a shift in axis that no one in the room can name, but everyone is beginning to feel. It's as if the atmosphere is rearranging itself for an inevitable impact. While he continues speaking confidently, she remains anchored in something unknown to others, a hidden truth, patiently guarded. There is no rush to reveal it because certain revelations only fulfill their purpose when the contrast is total. And the contrast, there is almost complete. Excessive arrogance on one side, absolute control on the other. This imbalance prepares the ground for a turning point that doesn't depend on shouting or direct confrontations, but on presence and timing. Employees feel it, even if they can't explain it. The corporate environment, once rigid and predictable, enters a kind of suspension. No one knows exactly what will happen, but everyone senses that something big is about to emerge. It's the kind of moment when past decisions begin to take their toll, where the mentality based on appearances begins to crumble in the face of reality, where the journey of someone who was judged in silence begins to align with an inevitable outcome. She calmly crosses her hands, takes a deep breath, and maintains a steady gaze. There is no nervousness, no anxiety, only the awareness that time works in favor of those who know how to wait. This silence not only protects the truth,